thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening for creating engaging social media. My name is Jax Keenan. I'm Community Engagement Officer at the Your Shore Beach Rangers project, which is a partner project between Cornwall Wildlife Trust and Cornwall College. A lot of you will have heard this spiel quite a few times. So I work with community groups all around Cornwall, supporting them and training them. And they are part of the Your Shore network of community groups. And we also work with young people to engage them with marine conservation and to give them life skills and hopefully get them involved in local community groups. Today we have one of our previous project apprentices, Jodie Hollyoake. She was a Your Shore Beach Rangers apprentice with us for a year, and now she's working with Cornwall Wildlife Trust itself on the people and engagement team. And she's going to go through this training with you. And this is provided free for you due to our project funding, which is from Our Bright Future and a National Lottery Community Fund. So we're very grateful for them. So I will now hand over to Jodie. Do you need anything else from me, Jodie?
No, that's all great.
Right, okay, there you go.
Cool, so yeah. Thanks everyone for joining this evening and for being willing to listen to me talk about social media for over an hour. So no, that's great. So here's just a bit of what I'm going to cover this evening. So I'll just start a little bit first off by saying how to manage social media as a volunteer and trying to keep that balance, work-life balance, because it can be difficult. I'll then speak about sort of deciding your platform, sort of what are your purposes and why you want to be on social media, and therefore how that will dictate sort of what platforms you spend your time on. And then the main bit of it will be writing engaging captions. So this is how to create captions that have an impact and that make people want to stop and actually read what you have to say. And then I'll be going on to telling a visual story. So this is images and videos and why this is just as important as what you write. And then just a little bit at the end, talking about growing a community. So you've got your posts, you've got your visuals, but how do you actually sort of grow your audience on social media? So yeah, this is just a little introduction to myself, as Jack said. So I moved down to Cornwall. I did a degree at Falmouth called Marine and Natural History Photography. So I have a photography background. I then started to get involved in Falmouth Marine Conservation Group and became their digital communications officer. So that was just simply managing all of their social media accounts. And that was the first time I'd ever done social media ever. And then I became the apprentice on the Beach Rangers team. So a core part of that was managing the social media accounts. And yeah, as Jack said, I'm now working in Cornwall Wildlife Trust sort of marketing and fundraising team. So this is just to say that I know how it feels being a volunteer and doing this both as a volunteer and also paid. So yeah, just 5 tips to successfully manage a social media account as a volunteer. So I'm going to give you all of these tips and tricks and tools, but actually what you can do is sort of good enough. It's all a big learning curve. And yeah, just do what you can and sort of have fun with it. It's meant to be fun, and just sort of try and find that balance that's sort of right for you. And then going on to quality over quantity. So you might think you have to post all the time to, you know, get likes and grow your audience, but actually if you've only got the time to post once a week, then just focus on posting once a week, but make it the best post that you can do. So yeah, try and avoid posting regularly sort of all the time and then going silent and then maybe coming back after 2-3 months. Try and keep it consistent instead. So consistency is the key here. It's not about posting all the time. And then sort of be experimental, try new things. So this is great when you're starting out, when you're learning social media, to just, yeah, try new things, see what works for your audience, and just take it as a learning experience to learn more about social media and, yeah, also your audience. And then do more of what works for your audience. So over time you'll start to learn, okay, these posts did really well, people really liked this, these posts less so, and just basically do more of the things that are working, but make sure it's still relevant to your organization. Yeah, and that you're staying true to your organization. That's a big thing. You don't want to be sort of going off piece. You want to try and keep to sort of the work that you're doing. And then finally, bulk schedule your posts for when your audience are online. So when I found out that you could schedule posts, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Because, you know, I could do it in one go. I could put time in to do it on a Wednesday evening or something and have 2 or 3 weeks scheduled at a time. So it's very time saving. And also on the social media platforms, you can actually schedule your posts for when your audience are online, so you can sort of see those graphics. So obviously Facebook, Instagram and Twitter have data that they'll collate for you, and they'll show you an easy graph so that you can see, oh, okay, most of my audience are online in the evening, so I'll post it in the evening. So that way you can make your posts have more of an impact. So yeah, these are some of the audience insights that I'm gonna show you guys in a minute. So yeah, you can find out the peak times for when your audience are online. I would say take it with a pinch of salt. It's meant to be an indicator, so it's not 100% fact, you know, just like I said as well, just play around with it. I don't have a set rule for when I schedule posts. I'm still just playing around with stuff and seeing how it works. So I'll show you guys. I'll come out of this presentation now, and I'll show you guys how you find out those insights. So I'm hoping that this still works. So yeah, here I use Facebook Creator Studio to schedule my posts. So the brilliant Morwenna, who did her session last week, showed you a bit about scheduling on the different platforms. You can do it on Facebook Business Manager. You know, there's still other ways of doing it, but I use Creator Studio. I find it the best. So in order to get on Creator Studio, it's just business.facebook/Creator Studio, and it will come up with a page like this, and it will have a drop down of sort of the pages that I manage. And yeah, yours should look like this. So if you go into Insights and then you go into Overview, and I'll select this as a page that I created ages ago, so it's fine. So yeah, Insights, Overview, and it will come up with, if it loads, it will come up with this page. Now if you go onto Posts down here, you'll see it's got this brilliant graph, and it says when your fans are online. Because to be honest, you don't want to post when your fans are not online. You want to try and make it so that, you know, everyone who follows you sees it. So when I was looking at this, when I was preparing this talk, I was like, oh, when's mine? And it says about 11 to noon. And bearing in mind I don't use this page a lot, and I was like, oh, that's very weird. But then it says here Pacific time zone. So if you're going to do this after the session ends, you have to like add 8 hours onto the times that it's saying here, because we're 8 hours in front in England than the Pacific time zone. So actually most of my followers are online about, what is that, 7-8 p.m. So that's how you find it on Facebook. You can also, I'll cross that off. You can also do it on Instagram on your phone, but you can also do it on Instagram through Creator Studio. So if you click up here at the top, and I'll have to go here and just select, for example, beach ranges, and go on to Insights here and Audience. And if you scroll down, it will give you when your followers are on Instagram, and choose the day and hour, and it will come up with this chart. So as you can see, most people generally, again, are online 6, 7, 8 p.m. and that's when I schedule my posts for. So it will be different for a lot of you. You know, if you're sort of a business, it might be during the day, but yeah, I think the best time to post personally is in the evening. And then on Twitter, you have to, I'll just change accounts quickly. So when I tried to do this with the Beach Rangers account, it actually said that I couldn't see it because we didn't have 1,000 followers. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's something to note, that if you have a Twitter account with less than 1,000, it won't let you do this, which I think is stupid. But anyways, if you go to more there and go to Media Studio, and you go to Insights up here and Audience, it will give you this chart. So you can see here once again the black charts, from on Mondays from night 5 to anything to 10 o'clock is when most of our people are watching, really. Cool. So that's just a bit about audience insights, and I hope you find that useful and can use that information for your pages as well. So yeah, we're going to go on to our first sort of Jamboard activity. So if everyone can click on the link that Jack sent in the chat, and I want you guys to just think about how social media can help your volunteer group and sort of what you want to use it for. So I've put an example here, which is advertise events. So when I was with the Falmouth group, we'd obviously use it to publicise our events, and we wanted more people sort of outside our bubble, people who didn't know about us, to come along to our events and learn about what we do, and putting out on social media was a great way to do that. So yeah, if you could put your ideas on the Jamboard, that would be great. Cool. And Jax, if you can read out for me sort of if anyone's putting anything on the Jamboard, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we've got promote your events and promote your activities, promoting volunteer opportunities. We've got promote what we find and the work we do, sharing your achievements, reporting wildlife sightings and educating your audience, highlight wildlife and environmental issues, share facts about animals, got fundraising, and that is,
yeah, these are
you should be able as well.
These are great.
Have you got the Jamboard open?
Yeah.
Could you share it? Could you do a screen share in case there's anybody who hasn't been able to get on it?
Oh no, I haven't, but that's a good idea. There we go. Oh, that's brilliant. So yeah, well, there's loads of ideas. So what you'll see from here is actually you can use social media for a lot of different things that you want to do. So I'll move on to my next slide, which is what you want to use social media for, and sort of that will dictate, what you want to use social media for, and sort of the audience that you want to engage should then dictate the platforms you want to be on. So I love this. This is just a great simple breakdown of what each platform does. So, Twitter, I'm eating a donut. Facebook, do you like these donuts? Instagram, here's a photo of my donuts, and so on. So I love that. I think it's great and easy to understand. And so if you are a volunteer group and one of your ideas might be, well, we want to be on social media to engage more young people, I might say to you, well, Instagram is great. It's for that at the minute. I know TikTok is booming and stuff, but I think for your purpose and what you want to do, I would suggest something like Instagram. Whereas someone mentioned fundraising on that Jamboard, you might think about sort of LinkedIn, and sort of there's lots of professionals sort of on there. There might be some people that are sort of donors. There will be people that manage grant applications for charities and sort of stuff like that. And yes, so I want you to just take away from this before you think about what social media platforms to jump on, maybe just think about, okay, what do we want to do? What is our sort of purpose? And if your audience isn't using that platform, it's sort of pointless to invest your time in it. So I could say this a little bit about myself when I was managing the Falmouth Facebook group, that we were on LinkedIn, and actually it wasn't doing very well, and I don't think we really had a purpose for that. And so you put time and effort into doing those posts, and actually it's not benefiting the group in any way. So I'd say being on a smaller amount of platforms and investing your time into those and knowing what the purpose is better than just spreading yourself far too wide. So yeah, now that you've got a clear sort of purpose for using social media, you can work on your time having the most impact as a volunteer. So the next bit is going to be about writing engaging captions. So we've got the second Jamboard, and it's the last of the evening. And so this is just, what do you think makes an engaging post on social media? And I would love to hear what you think about this. So I've put, for example, just an eye-catching image. So yeah, if you can all go onto that Jamboard, I'll share. Oh, I will try and share the Jamboard again, so you can all see it for those of you that can't get on there. There we go. Oh, so there's already loads coming in. A video, yes, video is great, and I will go on to that in more of the visual section. But actually, platforms will, how do I say it, like preference if you post videos, they'll push it out to more people. But yeah, I'll go on to that later on. So the caption, yes, so you want to read that caption first of all, and then you want to continue reading. That's what that's hopefully what your post will do. No patronizing comments. Yeah, so there's nothing worse than reading a post and feeling like whoever has written that post is sort of being patronizing. Yeah, I get that. Being on brand, yeah, even though you might think you are a volunteer, you might not have time to commit to this, and you might be a really small charity or sort of volunteer group. Having a brand and being consistent is actually really beneficial. You want your followers to think that you're a reputable organization, and that you're not posting anything sort of out of the blue that's not relevant to you. Not too long. Yes, exactly. People have such short attention spans. If you see a long post, and I do this myself, I'll scroll down, and if something's well too long, I just go, I can't read that. I'm not in my right mind frame to read that. So yeah, these are all great suggestions, and I'll cover some with what's coming up, but I'll also read them tonight just to see more of what you guys think. So is there any questions at this stage, Jax, that I have missed, or are we all good to go?
There's none in the chat, so yeah, if anybody does have any questions. I thought that the apolitical one's quite an interesting one, isn't it, to bring up? Do you want to
There you go.
Politically neutral in your posts?
Yeah, that is a good one to think about. I have always tried to not become political, but I think it really does depend on what your organisation is, and it's good to speak to your committee members and your peers and come up with sort of an agreement. If you're going to take a stance, and you take a stance, and then the person managing that social media can then know about it and can then filter that into their social media. But in general, with the organizations I've tried to work for, yeah, I don't try not to get involved in politics. But we have in the last, yeah, go on.
Leela's just said it can be quite hard to avoid when you're talking about conservation issues, which I would agree with to a point, but you can do it in a way, there's a way of raising an issue that is political without being sensitive to it, not necessarily slandering one side or the other. You can raise an issue and say, this is maybe an issue that's being raised in Parliament, that's being debated, something that we're trying to campaign for policy change without being sensitive about it. Because what you don't want to do, what you kind of want to do through social media is you're trying to, in a lot of cases, you're trying to win over more people, or you're trying to spread your message wider. So if you're alienating half of the population because you're being too right or left wing, then that's not going to help your cause, basically, is what I would say.
No, that's great, Jax. It reminds me of like when I did a post last year on the Beach Rangers page, just and it was near to voting time, and I just shared a video about, you know, it was encouraging young people to vote, and that's sort of on brand, because we want, on the Your Shore Beach Rangers project, we want to engage, you know, more young people to have their voice and to sort of make a stand and stick up for the marine environment and nature if they want to, and it's sort of aligned with that, but it is very difficult.
But that was just telling people to vote. It wasn't telling people to vote one way or the other. Maddie has just asked what advice you would give for helping to keep captions short. Personally, I like lots of information, so it's hard for me to keep it short sometimes. So how should I decide which bits of info to keep?
It's a hard balance, because what I have seen more and more now is people on Instagram, and they write fairly long captions, but if your audience are engaged in what you do, like the people that I like to follow, I will read that whole caption. I would more say maybe like stick to the main points in your post, and then direct them to like your website or a blog or something else for people to read on if they're interested and want to read on. So I'll talk later on about something called like call to actions, but just a nice summary, and then direct those people that are interested to elsewhere where they can read more. I think that would be my advice.
That's great. There's no more questions. Thank you.
Yep. So yes, that was a great little activity. It's interesting to hear what you all think. So yeah, I'm going to start with Facebook and sort of write in captions. And this is just what I've done. This is what I found works for me. There are many different ways to do social media, so take what you want, basically. There's not one way of doing things, but you want your post to sort of be captivating and have an impact. You know, maybe there's a surfer on a beach and he's got like half a second, and he reads your, you know, he's on social media before he goes surfing and stuff, and you've got that half second to make someone, you know, read more of what your post. Or you've got a busy mum or a journalist that's got like 60 different stories around them, and everyone's very time poor at the minute, and you want your posts to make someone stop and actually read the whole thing. And actually that's very hard to do, but you want to make your supporters and your followers sort of love what you're doing, and you want to make them join you. You know, as a volunteer group, we wanted more volunteers, we wanted more people to support us and get on board with what we're doing. And obviously what you say in your captions is a part of that, and how you communicate what you're doing is a part of that. So first thing on Facebook, so sort of a one-line headline or attention grabbing first sentence. So I realized now, looking back at my post, I do love to write my headlines in caps at the top. You don't have to do that, but what is really important is the first few words that you say. And sort of that headline, or if you don't want to do a headline, sort of your first sentence, making someone stop and read. So as you can see on the left, it's like Portuguese man o' war sightings. It's sort of the key message of your post, that if someone's got 1 second, they'll read that, they'll know what it's about, and they'll either want to read on because they're interested in that topic, or they won't. And those people that won't will probably not be your core audience. So you can see here, ocean stories from the classroom. It sums up what my post is going to be about. So the next one is 2 or 3 small paragraphs with key details. So like we've just been discussing, some people like a longer post. That the person who did the social media before me at the trust, like very, very short 1 or 2 sentences. It really does depend, and it really does vary. But what I like to do is kind of keep it short and sweet and just put the key details in the post. So as you can see here on the right, I've just put when the event is, sort of what it's about, who will be leading it. So that was Becky from FMC, and just saying you'll get to ask your questions. I haven't bullet pointed everything that she'll be covering. I've just tried to keep it short and sweet. And then I've put that link in there. You know, if people are interested, they can go to that link and there'll be more of a bio of what Becky's going to talk about. So then avoid jargon. So yeah, so try and avoid things like acronyms. So like ERCUS, for example. So at the trust we had the record centre, and that's what it's called. And then words like cetacean or marine conservation zone. You want to use simple language. You want to make sure that everyone understands what you're saying, and there's nothing worse than reading a post and not knowing what people are talking about. You'll just get disengaged. People will just scroll past. And sort of a way like I like to think about it is, would my mum know these words? So she knows what I work in, what I do, and she supports it, but she doesn't know everything. And so yeah, I just sometimes think, would my mum know this? If she doesn't, then try and think of a simpler way to put it. But then there's sort of a balance between educating people and sort of using words that your audience don't know. So some of you, if you read my Portuguese manual post on the left, you'll see that I've used, is it siphonophores? I think that's how you say it. But basically, Portuguese manuals are not jellyfish, if you didn't know that. And there is a balance between educating your audience and putting in words like that, but sort of explaining, what those words mean. You don't want to bombard people with information that only like marine biologists know, for example. I'm not a marine biologist, so if I see a post like that and I don't understand it, it might be a great topic, but I won't read it because I don't understand. So then using emoji sparingly. So emojis are great. Obviously, we use it on the Beach Rangers project because we're quite fun. Our project's about engaging young people as well as communities. So they're great. And obviously people don't have a very long attention span anymore on social media. So just sort of having that imagery in your caption as well really helps. But I like to, using them sparingly. So I say about from 5 to 10, 12, but I don't like to use them loads in a post. And also what I'd say is keep them relevant. So I'm not going to put like an emoji of a dog or something when it's about like Portuguese man of war. I think it's trying to keep them relevant to what you're saying, so that they're a visual sort of representation of what you're saying. So in that Portuguese man of war post, I've put the sort of warning sign, because they are something that people need to look out for on the coast, especially if they have like dogs and stuff. So yeah, that's emojis. And then using facts or statistics if relevant. So yeah, this is great. So if you're saying we did a beach clean today, why not say, we collected 50 kilograms, or I've probably got a measurement wrong there, but quantify how much you've taken off that beach. It's more engaging. If you've run an event but the event has done really well, so put in there you've got over 100 people attended your beach clean. That's great. That's what people want to hear, really. It sort of helps to back up your story and sort of what you're saying. And then asking questions and or a call to action. Okay. So if anyone reads my post, they know I absolutely love a question. But what questions do is they sort of encourage conversations amongst the people that follow your page. And you want that interaction. I think sometimes we forget that it is social media, and you want people to like what you're doing, want to interact with you and others about the topic that you're posting about. So but it's important to ask open-ended questions instead of a sort of yes no. So maybe asking people if they recognize where that photo is taken, or if they've seen, like I've done there in the Portuguese Manowar post, you know, have you spotted Portuguese Manowar? And I got so many comments and people being like, yes, I've seen one here, and it's great. And it's also useful for our strandings team to know how many have been spotted around the coast. So asking questions is great, and I would say usually I either do it at an end of a post, so sort of maybe the final sentence or two, so here, who's up for joining us, or have you spotted Portuguese Manowar, or I'll sort of open my caption with that question, because if people read that question, like yesterday on the Cornwall Wildlife Trust page, I've put, have you seen a hedgehog this year? And people will be like, yes, I have, and they'll comment and they'll want to engage with you, but just because of that one question, they know what the post is about, and they sort of want to share. People love sharing. Like, you ask a question and people just love it. Especially if they're wildlife enthusiasts, they're going to want to share stuff with you. And then a call to action. So this is sort of a prompt or invitation for a user to take some desired action. So it could be reading, you know, you want people to read your latest blog, or sign up to an event, or sign this really important petition, like, you know, we'll get us highly protected marine areas or something like that. That is what a call to action is. So you might read a post that says like read more, or click here, share, sign up, comment, all those words, all them action words are referring to sort of a call to action. Whoever's written that post, that organization wants you to do something. It's a lot of times organizations and businesses want to take you off of social media, so they want you to read their post, and then they want you to go one step further, so they want you to go to their website or their booking page or their shop. So yeah, that's, and sort of without a call to action, it's great because you're like spreading awareness about what you're doing, but sort of in our line of work, you want people to change their behavior. You want people to buy a reusable bottle. You don't want people to litter. And so in order to create that behavior change, you want them to go, like I said, one step further than just reading a social media post. But not every post needs a call to action or a question. It's just a great engagement tool. It's a great way, like I said, to take them that one step further than the social media post. But don't feel every post has to have that call to action. And then credit the photographer, filmmaker of the image. So you'll see I always do this down the bottom and put a camera emoji, so they know who's taken the image. And obviously, coming from a photography background, I find this really important. You know, if your volunteers have allowed you to sort of use that image on social media, just crediting them, you know, and students as well that are just building up their portfolios, crediting them and tagging them, it is great for them as well, when maybe then they'll see it and they'll share it on their pages as well. And this is a bit of a controversial one, but I want to discuss it here quickly. So I've said avoid hashtags on Facebook. So in my opinion, there aren't that many people that search for hashtags in Facebook search bar. Yeah, it's not as common on Instagram or Twitter. So I don't really like to use hashtags on Facebook. I don't really see the point of them. But if you do want to, make sure they're searchable. So they're words that, you know, people will actually search in that Facebook bar. It's something that people are actually looking for. But you'll probably see on our Beach Rangers post, we have hashtag engage and inspire and protect. And I just want to sort of say that there is a purpose behind us doing that. That's sort of our strap line, if you call it, and we do have a purpose of doing that, and we've stayed consistent, and we've done that sort of since the start. So that's why you might see hashtags on those posts, but I'd say in general it might not be worth your time to sort of look into hashtags on Facebook.
Can I just say on that one, Jodie, sorry, Mark's just said that hashtags work well on his LinkedIn.
On where, sorry?
On LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn I think is one of those ones, similarly to Twitter or Instagram, where people will use hashtags. I've noticed that as well, that people will hashtag at the bottom of their posts. So yeah, LinkedIn is another one of them platforms that is great for it. But yeah, I would say on Facebook, maybe not. But then there's an argument that Facebook will be going into that direction, just like Instagram and Twitter has been, and more platforms are going into that direction. So things might change, but at the minute, that's sort of my advice. And then tags. So this is tagging other pages in your post, and I tend to do this at the bottom of the caption just to keep it sort of nice and neat. And they're a great way to sort of increase your reach and engagement in your posts. So not if you tag, for example, Cornwall Wildlife Trust, not only will we see it, but it might appear on the news feeds of other people that like Cornwall Wildlife Trust page. So that's how it will increase your reach, and obviously it will increase, especially if those businesses and people that you've tagged have shared it on their pages as well. But sort of if you do tag in the wrong way, it will sort of look like spam. So the key here really is relevancy. So for example, in that Portuguese man o' war post, I won't tag like young people Cornwall, because it's not really relevant. The people that I've tagged in that Portuguese man o' war post are funders who I will always tag. You'll see there's a couple of news sort of pages in there, local news, and some of the marine groups as well, in case they see it on their coastlines. But then I might tag young people Cornwall in a post if it's specifically for young people. So it really is about keeping relevant. You don't want to annoy people by tagging their business page in your post in every post. And I tried not to do too many, but we always on Beach Rangers tagged Cornwall Wildlife Trust and Cornwall College and Our Bright Future and the Lottery Community Fund, because they were our funders. That was important for us to know what was going on. And actually, I think I've seen in some funding applications, when we did one for sea changers, part of the final report was how many posts have you done sort of mentioning us and stuff. So if you do have funders, it is good to tag them in your post to let them know what you're doing. So yeah, that's quite a lot there, but I think that's Facebook, and like I said, that's generally what I do, but take what you want from that advice.
Jodie,
yeah.
Sorry, we've just got one question from Leela, which Mark's also tried to answer. So Leela's asked, what would you recommend using LinkedIn to promote? I've not used it much, and I don't know what people would commonly post on their feed. So Mark has said, I see use for sharing and commenting on sector and professional news to display understanding, knowledge and insight. Have you got anything to add there?
I think Mark summed it up perfectly, if I'm honest. It is very business and professional, and sort of, like you said, industry sort of news. I think that's what you'd use it for.
Cool. Thank you.
So yeah, moving on to Instagram. So generally, sort of you'll know Instagram is a very visual platform. It's fun, it's engaging, it's sort of pleasing to the eye. But I would also say that it's less reactive and timely than like Facebook and Twitter. And what I mean by that is I post my best top quality images on Instagram. I don't post things that I'm doing, sort of here and now content. So I'd post that on Instagram stories, which I'll touch on the next slide. But it is very much for sort of your best sort of visuals. So you'll see on our Beach Rangers Instagram, it's very similar sort of caption to what I used for Facebook. So you've got that sort of headline at the top, so like, as I said, happy Valentine's Day, or asking a question, so how much do you really know about tides? I'll then do a few paragraphs of what I'm talking about, but trying to keep them sort of short and sweet. I'll then do the image credit at the end, and what was I going to say? And then emojis scattered throughout, but trying to keep them sort of sparingly, not too over the top, and of course the sort of no jargon, trying to keep that sort of simple language. So yeah, similar to Facebook in terms of the length and sort of the content on there. But this is a really important one. So when I was speaking about call to actions and putting external links up to your website, to shop, your blog, anything like that, you can't put that in the caption of the post, which is why it's a famous phrase of just link in bio. If you don't know what that means, the only way you can put a clickable URL on Instagram is in your bio, and you can only have one link there at a time. So is it on there? Yeah, that visit the link in our bio. I literally do that in most posts, but I have seen people still try and put URLs in the captions. And unfortunately, I don't know if anyone's tried to do this, even if you click and try and copy the caption, you can't. Instagram won't let you. So there is no point in trying to put a URL into your caption on Instagram. And then hashtags at the bottom. Yes, so definitely make use of these. So hashtags are used to sort of categorize your content and make it more discoverable, sort of to a larger audience, and they're also clickable. So yeah, they're a great way to expand your reach, so how many people are seeing your posts. And also, people also follow hashtags on Facebook. So for example, I might follow the hashtag Cornwall Coast, and the Beach Rangers post might come up, but I'm not following them directly. So it is a great way to sort of expand your audience. So yeah, as I've said there, you can hashtag up to 30 in one post, but I've sort of read that maybe like 11 to 15 is maybe a good start, sort of somewhere in the middle. So what I would say is hashtags with over 500,000 posts. So when you type in a hashtag, it will show you how many posts have that hashtag. So sort of over 500,000, you sort of only want to be used in a couple of them, and that's because they're so popular. They're quite generic hashtags that there's hundreds coming through every second for that hashtag, and therefore people aren't going to have a chance to discover your post because there's thousands of other posts that are also using that hashtag. So I'd say hashtags over 500,000, so keep them minimal. And then sort of your main hashtags, you want to be somewhere in the 100,000 to the 300,000 category. So not too big, not into the millions, but not too small either. And then hashtags where they're sort of under 30,000 are sort of your niche. So this is about hitting specific groups or communities. So I can't think of off the top of my head what hashtag Cornwall Wildlife is, but it would definitely be in that niche category. But as running the Cornwall Wildlife Trust page, you want to hit them people that are talking about wildlife in Cornwall. So your niche hashtags are still really great. So if I'm thinking about a marine group, I'd always hashtag Nuki or Polzef. I don't know how many people use them off the top of my head, but they're more niche. But they're definitely, if you're a local group and your thing is about one of your USPs is being local, you're going to want to use them smaller but location hashtags. Did you going to say that, Jack?
Yes, well done. Yeah, Josh has just asked what hashtags have the best reach when talking about animals, surveys and volunteering.
I would definitely say out of all of animals, there's so many that are from what I've discovered, that are sharks of Instagram, hedgehogs of Instagram, as I've been doing today. Animals are great. I generally use hashtag citizen science as well. That one's been quite great. And if you are talking about something a bit more scientific with marine, I've hashtag marine biology or stuff like that. I think it's thinking about your audience for that post and who you want to read that, and then just thinking about some hashtags from there. I hope I've answered your question, Josh.
I'd just add as well, I know that on Twitter and Instagram there's certain accounts that if you hashtag SciComm, so science communication, if you hashtag SciComm, ocean optimism or conservation optimism, then they get a lot of attention.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and actually I've just seen in my own post hashtag ocean optimism. ocean
And
optimism
conservation.
and cycle. Oh yeah, look, I've done it. Do you know what I do? And this is a tip. Organizations that are very similar to yours, posting very similar content, look at what they're hashtagging, and they might have some really good hashtags that you've never thought about before. You won't have, and you just steal them. You just use them for yourself if they're relevant to your content. Like, I just always look at other people's posts and go, oh, that's a really good hashtag, or oh yeah, it's small enough that people will see my post, but it's not into the millions that will just get lost. Yeah, cool. So and yeah, one thing to mention about hashtags is change them up and use a variety. So actually it's sort of against Instagram's community sort of guidelines to use the same hashtags again and again on every single post, and you'll get sort of penalized for it. So I do have different sets of hashtags. I do use, like, if it's a landscape, I will have like general landscape hashtags, but I'm not posting about landscapes every day, so it won't penalize me for that. So yeah, make your hashtags suit what you're saying in your caption, and yeah, change them up a lot of the time.
Jodie, Tina's just asked, is there a website where you can see favorite hashtags or search words?
There is a few of them. I did go on, I'll be honest, I haven't been on them for a few years. I would be cautious. What those websites will tell you are like the generic hashtags, like I said, that will get millions of posts that will use that hashtags. And yeah, it might be more time consuming, but for example, Satina's from Pulse F, so I'd maybe look at some of the other so I'd have a look at some of the hashtags that either Pulse F organizations or businesses are maybe using, or like the other marine groups around Cornwall maybe using, or have a look at some of the beach rangers stuff. And I would find that more useful, because yeah, then websites will tell you the really huge generic sort of hashtags.
Thank you. And then Hannah has just said you can copy hashtags from other people's posts when you open Instagram on the computer rather than the app, and she uses it for wildlife photography.
What was that? Sorry, the first word. You can
copy hashtags from other people's posts when you open Instagram on the computer rather than the app.
Yeah, that's a great tip, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm still very much used to using Instagram on my phone, but now they're adding more features that you can do on the phone to the laptop version of Instagram. So yeah, that is a good shout. That will save you bundles of time. So yeah, that's a great tip.
And just as it's a natural pause, Jodie, it's 3 minutes to 8.
Cool. Cheers. So I will sort of generally scope through this because I'm a bit behind on time, but what I will say is, final point, just make a list of hashtags that you use often and sort of categorize them. So in my post event email that I'll send after this session, I'll sort of show you the list that I use of just general hashtags and tags. Oh yeah, and then tagging other Instagram pages in the image itself. You can do it in the image, and you can tag up to 20, or you can do it in the caption, but you can only tag up to 10. And you can't tag in the actual video itself if you're doing a video on Instagram. So there's a picture, so you can see from that tides image there's all the pages that I've tagged in that Instagram post. So yeah, different tags depending on what I'm posting about. And as I've said again, there'll be some ideas for Instagram pages to tag depending on the category in my post event email. So I will very lightly touch on Instagram stories. Your post might be how did I word it? Not like on the go post. You want to use your best content, but stories is definitely sort of content that's on the go. So it's videos up to 15 seconds long, and they disappear after 24 hours unless you put them in your highlights. And what I found for beach rangers and marine groups is these are great for events and behind the scenes stuff and sort of how-to videos or awareness days. So there's many sort of tools that you can use on stories. For example, you can see, sorry, I'm well behind on these. You can see that orange box there. You can use sort of the questions function, do polls, event countdowns. So I would say utilize these tools for engagement. You know, ask people what marine life have they seen. Ask people what's their favorite beach in Nuki, for example. You'll get so many people replying back. People just, like I said, love to share. So there's, if you want to talk more about Instagram stories, I can do that with you sort of one-to-one. So yeah, just a quick touch on Twitter as well. So short snappy tweets, only 280 characters. You want it to be short and sweet, and you sort of want to maximize the small amount of characters you do have. It's only like 1 or 2 sentences, so you need to get really sort of to the point with your tweets. Yeah, no paragraphs or spacing out of text, literally because of the short amount of characters. So I just keep it in sort of 1 paragraph. Again, I won't go over this, but it's sort of engaging sort of first sentence, asking questions like I did with that Mermaid's Purse post, and then sort of call to actions. So you're seeing that Mermaid's Purse one, I've put a question and then told them about sort of our event. I want people to sign up to our egg case events by using that sort of link, and that is a bit.ly link, so it's a sort of URL shortener, and I use that on Twitter a lot, and I'll put more about that in the post-event email. And then yeah, image, video, caption at the very end of the credit. Hashtag relevant words throughout text. So yeah, unlike Instagram, I'll hashtag relevant words in the text, but you've got to make sure that those words are sort of searchable and relevant. So I don't think anyone's going to search for hashtag congratulations, for example. But what I will hashtag is things like Jack said, ocean optimism, SciComm. I'll hashtag Cornwall. I'll hashtag, wildlife photography. They're the sort of hashtags that you want to be hashtagging within the text itself. And then tagging other pages. So you can see in the middle tweet, I've tagged Lou in the caption, and that's because I'm specifically mentioning them within that post. But what I tend to do is tag there. So you can tag in an image itself, and you can tag up to 10 pages. And like I've said before, keep it relevant. So in that Mermaid's Purse post, I would have tagged Shark Trust. I would have tagged, maybe rock pool, sort of people that rock pool or stuff like that. Do try and keep it relevant. And yeah, lifespan of a tweet is not that long. So once again, they're sort of short, snappy tweets with relevant tags and hashtags, and make sure they're eye-catching as well. I've read recently that photos do better than videos, but I'd sort of have to disagree. If you've got a great video like that basket shark one on the left, it will do very well. But God, I'm well behind time, but these are just some really quick tips to think about when preparing and sort of writing captions. So I love this analogy. So when you're writing your captions, say it as if you're speaking to a friend in the pub. You want to use really simple language that everyone to understand, and if the audience don't know the terms that you're using, they'll be disengaged like really, really quickly. And expect your post to go out wider than your audience itself. So, someone who follows your page might share it, but then their friends don't know what you do. So try and keep it really simple is what I'd say. Find your voice, develop your own style. So Beach Rangers, because of our purpose and what we do, is really fun, engaging, sort of light-hearted, and just find your voice depending on what your organization stands for, and sort of use the sort of use the voice in general of your trust. Your trust will have a way of like writing letters or how they speak. They might be slightly more formal or informal, and use that to sort of develop the voice for your social media. Write your captions in Microsoft Word first. There have been many a times I have lost captions and lost lots of time because I haven't done this. So definitely write your captions in Word, save them, and then copy and paste them when you're scheduling them. Make a pre-prepared list of hashtags and tags. I've already spoken about this, but that will save you a lot of time so that you can copy and paste them when you're ready to schedule your post. And then here I would suggest maybe someone, I can include this in my post event email actually. Here's some of the things that I've found to work well on each of the platforms. I won't delve deep into that too much. I'll put that in the post event email, but yeah, there's definitely different audiences and sort of different things that work well on each of the platforms. So yeah, we will move on to the visuals. So the visuals and sort of the imagery is just as important, if not even more important than the caption itself. And it's because people are very visual. When they're scrolling down, they're gonna, if they like that picture, they'll then read it. But if it's a blurry picture, if it's out of focus, it's easy to scroll past it because there's just so much content on social media nowadays. So yeah, we're very time poor, we're short attention span, so it's very easy to sort of scroll past. And the key here, once again, very popular word, but it is consistency with your sort of images. So good images and sort of visuals help to increase engagement and reach. If it's something that people enjoy watching, they spend more time on, it's obviously increasing that engagement. They might share it, that's going to increase your reach. Can convey a massive amount of information quickly with great visual appeal. So you'll see that Love Your Beach Week graphic that I designed there for beach rangers. That image itself shows you all the events that we're holding for Love Your Beach Week, and that saves me so much. You know, my caption doesn't have to be as long and doesn't have to list all them things because I've put it really simply and easy for people to understand in a graphic itself. So yeah, and then finally takes priority in social media algorithms, especially video. So yeah, I won't explain too much in terms of what an algorithm is, but for example, on Facebook, if you do a Facebook live video, I know that Facebook will actually prefers this content. They want people to go live on Facebook. They will essentially favor this content and promote it to loads more people, which is why if you've ever done a live on Facebook, you'll see that the reach is sort of incredible compared to the normal reach that you'll get in your posts. And this is because Facebook wants you to do live videos. And sort of, yeah, this good quality sort of videos and sort of content will take priority. The platforms itself will prioritize this, and it will show more people this content. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, here is 2 examples. I won't play them both now, but I have included links to them in this post-event sort of document that I'll share with you all. But they're 2 great examples of creating video content for social media sort of storytelling. So the one on the right is actually about Pole's F's sort of refill station on the beach, and I think they were the first ones, but anyways, it was quite pioneering. That was shot by a woman called Martha who works for BBC Radio Cornwall, and that was just footage from her iPhone, for example. The one on the left is made by an amazing local filmmaker called Lewis Jeffries, who did the same degree as me, and obviously he's got very professional like sort of underwater equipment. But what I want this to show you is that you don't need great equipment. It's about the storytelling in your video. You want to keep people engaged for longer and make them watch the video. So they're 2 different purposes, they're 2 different topics, but they're both great at telling their retrospective stories. So yeah, please watch them when I send the links out. And yeah, just some tips for great visual content. Start creating an image library. So when I started with Falmouth Marine Group, started collating the images from each event, put them in folders, and then it's really easy for me to use them on social media. I'm not looking at, you know, everywhere. They're saved in one place, and that was really time saving for me. And then create connections with local photographers and filmmakers. I think we're very lucky in Falmouth that we had so many students and sort of so many people with a passion for photography who wanted to work with us and sort of get involved. That doesn't mean that there's not those people, you know, there's always people that are interested in this sort of thing, and that they'll be willing to help voluntary groups out, you know, so especially students and young people. They've got projects to do and they want to work with great organisations like the ones that we have here in Cornwall. But, you know, invite them to your event if you're having an opening sort of evening or a launch and stuff. I bet you'll get someone who will want to take pictures and sort of help you with that. And then, yeah, reach out and ask to use people's photos and videos. I think this is quite, I didn't want to do this at first. You want to use your own content, but if you do see a great image, say someone in Freebase is just taking this great sort of shark image, don't be afraid to send them a message and ask them very politely, hi, I manage this page, your image is fantastic, I'd love to share it, and obviously I'd give you credit for it. And I've done that loads of times, and more than likely they'll say yes. And if you tag their page as well and give them some publicity, that's even better. But don't be afraid if you don't have that great of images, if you feel like you haven't got that sort of top quality maybe for Instagram, don't be afraid to reach out and just ask people in your community. And then sign up to Canva. I'm a recent sort of, I don't know Canva that well, but it's fantastic. And I would say specifically for things like graphics and posters, but you can also create videos on there. And there is really good quality stock footage on there that's free to access. And you can get free Canva Pro for some non-profits. So we do use it at the Wildlife Trust, and we have a free pro account. I don't know their specific terms and conditions, but I am really hoping that voluntary groups will sort of qualify for that. I definitely sort of have a look into that. And then always remember to credit people. I feel like this is because I come from a photography background, and I know how, you know, some of my friends have had their images in sort of great websites or news corporations, and they haven't been credited. And I just think if you ask and someone is willing to let you share their picture, that you should always try and pay that back and sort of credit them. So yeah, this has gone really quickly, but just a final bit about growing your community. I will say, Jax, is there any questions? That's probably a good time to stop.
No questions at the moment.
Cool. So yeah, so you've got your great content, you know how to write captions and sort of what you want to say, but how, if you have a really small audience at the minute, how do you expand that? So how do you get more people listening to what you're actually saying and the work that you're doing? So I'd say tagging is what we've spoken about. Tagging people and other businesses and organisations in your posts is a great sort of first step to do this, and so, like, engaging other local people and sort of what you do. So that's step number one. And inviting people to like your page. What I mean by this is that people can like your post on Facebook, but they might not necessarily like your page. And there's a way to invite them, which is actually quite subtle. I know Morwenna spoke about it in her webinar last week. There's positives and negatives. It does depend. You don't want to seem like needy in doing that. But I will be honest and tell you that is a way that I grew the Beach Rangers numbers to be at 12,000 that it is now. So if people know how to do that, it's great. If you can post in the chat if you specifically want me to show you that, or if that's cool, that would be good to know.
Also, if you can include it in the post event document that we'll be sending out as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, I ran out of time.
Yeah.
Mark has said that he would like you to show, but yeah, just if you do run out of time, then we can put it in there as well.
Cool. What I do is I'll maybe leave that right to the end. Let's see how much I've got left. But that is a really good way of getting more likes on your Facebook page as such. Collaborating with other, local people and organisations. There's things such as takeovers, so whether your voluntary group does a takeover on a bigger page, like I've done with Beach Rangers on the Wildlife Trust Instagram, or if you get local people, local photographers, local campaigners to take over your pages. I find they especially work well on Instagram, but also on Twitter. And then things like doing joint projects, sort of collaborating, resharing. If you reshare something, you know, it's reaching sort of two audiences. So yeah, just collaborate with sort of the great organizations sort of around you. Don't forget the social side of social media. I do this so often, but because you get caught up in scheduling posts, but what actually you should remember is to try and interact with the people that are commenting on your posts, liking their comments, liking the shares that you get. It's very hard to forget this, and sort of being helpful. You know, if there's someone that's asked a question on your post, direct them to your website where they might find an answer, or direct them to resources, and just try and be really helpful. People will really like you for that. And then create a Facebook group with a purpose. So I won't speak about the difference between groups and pages, as Morwenna did that last week, but what I will say is a group in particular is great at growing a community. You'll have like-minded people that are in there, and it enables your supporters to have a conversation with one another, whereas the page, you are just posting from that page. But a group is a great way to sort of spark those conversations between people who support what you do. So I've put on the right, Freebays Wildlife have done an amazing job, and they set this up, I think, at the start of lockdown, called I Spy Wildlife in the Freebays area. And it's about people submitting their sort of wildlife sightings, but then I know the team behind that sort of gather that data and make sure they record it. Yeah, I definitely say go into it sort of with a purpose. Is it to have a hub for your volunteers? Is it to share wildlife sightings, or is it for a specific campaign? Bear in mind, if you create that group, you've got a page and a group to manage on Facebook, but it is a great tool for creating a community. So that is me done. If I have got a little bit of time, haven't I, Jax?
Yes, you do. You've got about 14 minutes.
Cool. So if anyone does have any questions, if they're like, I didn't understand what you said earlier, please post them in the chat, or obviously you can follow up with me after the session. But I will show you quickly how to invite someone to like your page from a Facebook post. Let me go on to here's one that I've got. So this is a Beach Rangers post, and this is what it looks like if you manage a page. So if you click on the people that, make sure you're on Beach Rangers and not on your account. If you click here about the people that have liked it, you'll see this invite button. So you can press that. It will say invited. What that does is, in your notifications here, it will give them a notification, and it will say something really simple like Your Shore Beach Rangers, you recently liked Your Shore Beach Rangers' post, they've invited you to like their page, or something like that. It's very, very simple. But when we had so much engagement in lockdown, at the start of lockdown, that is how I grew the audience quite a bit. So it is a simple tool, but again, it depends on what sort of organization you sort of are, and whether you want to do that, really. But that's the wrong one. But yeah, that is me done. So I'm sorry, I've crammed so much in there because there is so much about socials, and it's always, developing. But if you do have any follow-up questions that I haven't answered in this document that Jax will be sending, then you feel free to email me. And yeah, Jax's session next week on running online events, that should be great. But yeah, I hope you found something useful, at least one thing useful from this session.
Thank you very much, Jodie. Before we finish, are there any other questions at the moment? As Jodie says, you can send them afterwards if you'd like, and see what she sends out in the follow-up document. There's also, Jodie did mention when she was going through some of those posts about using awareness days and days of observance. So I have a document of a list of those. So I'll send that out with the follow-up document as well.
That's great. Thank you all for your comments in the chat. It's great to hear it was useful.
Unless there's any other questions, then, so this will, as Jodie says, there's another session next week. That is on Monday next week, because the Wildlife Trust has their hedgehog wildlife next Tuesday. So Monday,
yeah, wildlife matters.
Wildlife Matters. I knew that. So that's so the next session on Monday is running online events. So it's events and meetings, and there's still spaces available for that on Eventbrite. So yes, this will be available as a recording on the Cornwall Wildlife Trust YouTube, Cornwall Wildlife Trust Marine YouTube channel, and I'll send a link to that. So I'll upload it tomorrow before I send out the document. And yes, Morwenna did a session last week on the basics of social media, which is also on the YouTube channel. And I will send out the link to that as well as the follow-up document that she put together for that too. So yeah, thank you all so much for your kind comments, and you'll have my contact details and Jodie's contact details. So if you do have any follow-up questions, do just give us a shout. But thank you all so much for attending this evening. It's been lovely to have you here, and I hope to see you again at another event soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.